Assalamu alaikum and what's up everyone? Alright, so today we're going to be talking about long exposures again, but this time we're going to be using RGB lights and we're going to do some demonstrations on how to control your shutter speed and your aperture while using these cool RGB lights to make some cool designs. Alright, so let's get started. All right, guys, so what we're gonna talk about right now is shutter speed. It's actually the most important thing, next to lighting and setup, of course, is understanding your shutter speed, knowing how it works. Now, I'm not gonna go into the details of the triangle. If you are interested in learning about photography and the exposure triangle, check out some of my other videos, somewhere on the top or somewhere on the side or on here, but check it out there. You'll be able to learn all about the exposure triangle within 5 minutes. But understanding or knowing how to control your shutter speed is what's going to give you these cool looking lights like the one on your screen right now. So as you see how the lights are stretched right now, that's because the shutter was open for a certain amount of time to allow all the light to come in and give you this amazing image. So when you have your shutter speed running a little slow or running for a little long, if the physical body, the human body moves and there's no light attached to it, they become like a ghost. So you'll see some ghosting, you'll see some shadows. That's because there's no light fixated on them to be able to enter into the sensor to develop that image. But if I was to shine a light and I was to swing that light around, you would actually see a pattern because the light itself is entering the lens, hitting the sensor and creating an image. It's being locked in. But because the shutter is still open while the light is moving, it's creating these beautiful patterns which look really cool, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So the first test we're gonna do, just for demonstration's sake, is we're gonna do a shutter of, we'll say 1/10, and I'm gonna whip the light and see if we get anything. All right, so let's see how that looks. All right, guys, so if you look at your screen right now, that was 1/10 with an aperture of f8 and an ISO of 100. Now the ISO, again, I'm not gonna discuss the triangle, but ISO, we kept it at 100 because we don't want any noise. We have a long exposure going on, so we got some lights going on, and it's okay, that's what we're gonna capture. We're gonna capture lights. But if you look at 1/10 on your screen right now, look at how it only created a short blue wave. It was so fast that it didn't have enough time to let in enough light. What do you think would happen if I drop it down to 1 second? Let's give it a shot. Let's give it 1 second. Let's demonstrate another one. All right, so now if you look at your screen, actually instead of doing 1 second, we did 0.4. So 0.4 was the shutter speed. And look at your screen right now, you're gonna be able to see a U. So what's happening is we're leaving the shutter open longer and longer, and it's allowing light to travel more, and it's being captured onto that sensor. Pretty cool, right? Now, what do you think is gonna happen if we keep upping it and upping it and upping it? We're gonna be able to get longer and longer exposures on that sensor, and that's how the creativity comes into play when you start designing things. So now let's get really creative. Okay, so you guys saw what we did there? We got 2 lights and we adjusted something though. So since we bumped it up to 5 seconds, we had to adjust our aperture. Even though we adjusted the aperture still a little bit overexposed on the blue LED, blue RGB. All right, so whenever you adjust your shutter speed, you have to be able to adjust on your aperture side. If you really bump it up too high, meaning your shutter speed and your lights are pretty bright, you're gonna overexpose the shot, and then that coolness is kind of gone because it's gonna get washed out with all the lights. So you kind of have to balance it out, make sure you have a proper balance. So shutter speed was 5 seconds and aperture was at 10, f10. Now, if you noticed, when I was doing this, I actually put my hands down and I started counting. So since I knew it was gonna be 5 seconds, mentally, in my mind, I started counting the seconds down so I can get more creative with my shot. Now we're gonna let really loose and we're gonna get as crazy as possible. So we're gonna do some really cool things with some lights right now. Let's go see what we're gonna do. All right, guys, so you saw F11, 10 seconds. I had my good friend helping me out with the RGB lights. So we had lights on the left, lights on the right, getting creative. So just always remember, so you know that's pretty much how you do it, you know? So you can actually do this with fire. So if you're out in the desert or the mountains and you light some fire with some wool or a piece of wood and you rotate it around, you get these crazy epic shots. If you have a solder gun, if you have a guy that's soldering, and then you see those sparks flying like you see on your screen right now. We did one the other day that was like this. You can capture, just always remember, when the shutter is open, it's capturing light. The best time to obviously capture these situations if you are in a low light situation. So you're in a studio, dark room, or you're outside, you know, in the mountains, in the deserts, or wherever you are. And then you got these single lit elements, or these elements that are just full of light with darkness in the background. You create these patterns, you do all these cool things, and sky's the limit. You can get as creative as you want because it's all in your imagination. You know, as long as you know the basic settings, knowing that if you have your shutter open for too long, a lot of light is coming in, you have to compensate by adjusting the aperture. This way you get those colors in there, or else it's gonna be all washed out white. Cool? All right, guys, so that's gonna do it for me right now. This was a simple tutorial letting you know how to control light using your shutter to create awesome photos like the ones we just took today. All right, catch you on the next one. Hey, by the way, if you like tutorials like this, or if you like what you saw here today, leave a comment and a like down below. It makes a big difference for me. And if you wanna see most of my photos, you can check me out, TG from Dubai, right over here. And I'll catch you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum.